Hi all, today we would like to discuss our history chapter how, when and where for class 8th. Yes, students, let's start this chapter by remembering the father of history, Herodotus. Okay, I would like to dedicate this class because it is all about history. We are going to start this chapter, right? Yes. I have written a prominent date, according to us, a prominent date. From this date, we are analyzing history as a subject. You can all see 1947, August 15, India got freedom. A milestone year as far as Indians concerned. Okay. See, we all know this is a part of history. This is a part and parcel of past. Clear? So, definitely we can see, we know history means the study about past. History means the study about past. We all know this meaning. History is the study about past. History is one of the important subjects under social science which studies about past. Okay. But in this chapter, we are going to analyze what are the things included in this past as a concept. That is why I have written this prominent date here. Just focus. 1947, August 15th, India got freedom. As I told, it is a part of past. We all know this is an year. This is an year. This is an year. 15th August, this is a date. This is a date. India got freedom. India got freedom. This is an event or this is an incident. Okay. So, history is all about these collective things. So, let me write India got freedom. It is a particular incident. So, we can write it is an event. Okay. So, cadets, you just go through what I have written. History, as I told, as we know, history is a subject which studies about past. But I would like to analyze what all things were included. If you consider past is a ball, what all things are included in this ball? Year, dates, event. That will comprise of past. That is our first concept. What do you mean by history and what all things are included in this? So, remember, let me summarize. History is the study about past. History deals with the past. Then what all things are included? Past years, past dates, past events. Okay. So, that is why I gave this example. So, I hope you got a better idea now. History is the study about past, but do not limit with that. What all things are included? That is very crucial because you are studying in 8th class. So, simply making a definition is not so needed. Now, so dear cadets, let me add one more thing. History is not only studying about past. I will give you one simple example. What is that? If you take a king as part of history, if you are a historian, you will definitely, you have to analyze who was that king, what is the name of that king, which dynasty he represented, and which were the battles he fought, everything. Each and everything you have to analyze, because these are the parts of history, no doubt about that. But let me say, nowadays the dimension has been changed. The scope of history has been widened. For example, now if you are a historian living in the present world, you have to analyze how the people's livelihood, how they earned, how they led their lifestyle, how they evolved, each and everything. That means something related with the present. So, this is the latest development, my dear cadets. History is not only studying about past, but the present activities. For example, religious improvements. What are the developments, transformations happened in terms of religion? Everything we are taking into consider in history. So, that means we can summarize, history studies not only past as I told in the beginning, but history studies present as well. Clear? So, history is the collective study of present and past. But we can remember the first definition as well. So, this is what history as a subject. You need to look into those concepts, history into that angle as well. Clear? Yes. Okay, children, we are moving to the integral part of this chapter. James Mill and his periodization. Exam point of view, also this is very important. Who was James Mill? James Mill was a Scottish economist and a political philosopher. He published, his notable work was History of British India, History of British India, which was published in the year 1817. So, please do remember, History of British India, which was published in the year 1817. What are the importance of this book? Before going to the importance, you have to know what was the view of James Mill about India and all Asian countries. See children, James Mill was a political philosopher and a Scottish economist. He never respected Indian culture. What was his view? India was such an uncivilized country and people are uncultured and less educated. They are not at all able to do a physical job. They are all theoretical. These are the views of James Mill. Clear? Let me repeat once again. Indian culture he never respected. As we all know, India had a rich tradition. Okay, it was worldwide appreciated, but he never respected Indian culture. Who? James Mill. From that itself we know what are the attitudes, what were the attitudes possessed by James Mill. Clear? So, please do remember his book, A History of British India, which was published in the year 1817. And another important view of James Mill, he just told that in India, people are fighting only on the basis of this religion and caste. They are always thinking about caste. Caste taboos, this is the word he used. Caste taboos, taboos means inequality or problem. These kinds of discrimination is existed and people were fighting on the basis of their religion and caste. That is what James Mill's view. And religious inequalities, you can see caste taboos and religious inequalities were existed in India according to James Mill, and he viewed Indian culture as uncivilized, as I told, and unprotective. What do you mean by that? Means people are not at all useful for making or for doing a job. They are not at all economically contributing to the nation. Economically, they are not productive to the entire society. They are all thinking about religions and caste, and they are simply theoretical in their life, not practical. They are not able to do a job, manual work. Okay, these are the views possessed by James Mill. Please do take care all these points, because the views of James Mill very important. Okay, only from that views we can go to the next idea. In India, James Mill periodized Indian history into three in his book History of British India. Which were the three periods? That is quite interesting. Periodization of history, Hindu, Muslim and British. That is what the periodization made by James Mill. Hindu, Muslim and British. Did you get the interesting thing? What is that? Yes, history is all about years and incidents. We all know that. We already discussed. Then how can you say, how can you divide any country's history into three religions? It is rubbish, no? Yes. So we cannot divide this history into these kinds of religions by mentioning religions. Moreover, religion is always very sensitive. Your religion is so special to you. My religion is so special to me. So it is very sensitive idea, correct? So how can you divide a country's history into these kinds of religion, especially Hindu, Muslim and British? No, it is not at all possible. But James Mill did that in his famous book History of British India, which was published in the year 1817. That was the biggest problem of that periodization. So you need to know the views of James Mill, how he divided Indian history and what are the problems. So problems, let me focus. First problem is, we cannot divide any country's history, not only India, any country's history into different religions. Okay, there is no sense in that. And moreover, if you divide, suppose a historian, a philosopher is dividing the entire country's history into these religions, did you think about the people? What they may think about? It can only create these kinds of discrimination. Then people will also start thinking about their religion, others' religion, other caste, everything. So it can create only some problems. So this classification is not at all matching with the Indian's context or any other country's context. That is what James Mill's hidden idea. Okay. So cadets, we studied the first classification. We are moving to another classification. You should note that. Clear? The second classification of history, Indian history can be divided into another concept. That means ancient, medieval and modern. But let me say, ancient, medieval, modern are purely subjective. It can change from country to country. Clear? So in Indian context, ancient period, we don't have that much of information. Then medieval period, medieval history is another important branch. Clear? What do you mean by medieval history or medieval period? Medieval period remarks the history in between 8th century to 18th century. 8th century to 18th century. Then modern period. Modern history. Modern history, we have all Indian freedom struggle, colonialization and all. But let me say, my dear cadets, this classification is purely a subjective one. It is created by Western historians, better European historians. They divided Indian history into another, that is ancient, medieval and modern. Ancient, medieval and modern. And you have to focalize on this modern period. What do you mean by modern period? What do you mean by modern history, especially to India? Modern history means all the development occurred in the field of science, literature, politics. It's a period of renaissance. It's a period of enlightenment. Clear? So, modern period, all the developments occurred in all walks of life. That is what Britishers, that is what Europeans told. Clear? But at the same time, this classification also consists one important problem, as we mentioned in the case of James Mill. What is that? This is purely a European concept. According to European countries, modern period means all the development occurred during that same period. It cannot be applicable to India. Then what were the arguments of Indian historians? What were the justifications of Indian historians to say, to prove this is wrong? Let me say, Indian historians pointed out that during modern period, India was under the control of Britain. India was under the control of imperial countries and some other European powers, Dutch, French, Britain, of course, then Portuguese. Then how can you call this period as modern period? Indian historians argued that, they advocated that this is the period of colonialization, this is the period of inequality, and this is the period of discrimination. Then how can you say this period as modern? That is what the argument made by Indian historians. That is what the biggest problem of second classification. So you please study the problems of second classification. Then Indian historians pointed out that this is not modern period, this is colonial period. This is colonial period. So ancient, medieval, colonial. That is what the second category of history pointed out by Indian historians. So two classifications we studied, James Mill's classification, then the second classification. So children, as per the second classification, history can be divided into three: ancient, medieval and modern. And modern better known as colonial period. Then what do you mean by colonialism? What do you mean by the term colonial? Okay, we discussed before as well, but it is also mentioned in the syllabus in this chapter as well. So what do you mean by colonialism? You can see, colonialism means the subjugation of one country. Subjugation means the control by one country over economically, politically and socially. Remember, economically, politically and socially. Okay, then it is a process of dividing a country into different colonies and rule. As I told, it is a policy of divide and rule. Okay, so this is the period of inequalities. So children, already we discussed the features of colonialism. Okay, factory system, exploitation and inequalities, depletion of natural resources. I don't want to go to the deeper aspects of this, because you can refer the chapter from trade to territory. I have uploaded the class and there I have told this in detail. Okay. Yes. Our last topic is official documents. See cadets, what do you mean by official documents? Yes, official documents are the office related documents which can pass one important information with regards to all administrative aspects. Okay, which are the forms of official documents? You can consider even one letter, memos, notices, posters, circulars, all these are considered as official documents. What are the contents here? Most probably these official documents transmit something very important information. And during British rule, let me say, my dear cadets, they gave a special focus on these official documents. Why? That is my question. Why these official documents are being preserved by Britishers? Yes, can you guess? I told official documents always pass some information with regards to administration. So, that is the first importance. What is that? Official documents largely helped Britishers to maintain a systematic administration. Underline that word. Official documents, why they preserved? They preserved official documents to maintain a systematic administration. They can maintain the current administration as systematic as possible because of these official documents. Why? Because when an official information passes by the authority, the people will obey. Then it can be recorded as a document. It can be stored as a record. But that is another importance of official documents is for future references. What it means? Suppose one viceroy is introducing one important law. Okay, one important law during his tenure or in a particular year. It can be used as a future document for some other viceroys to come. Clear? So, official documents major importance where it can be useful for the systematic administration at the current time, and it can be useful for the future reference as well. Then what will happen? The future administrative officers also will refer what happens in the past, what things were there. These details we will get through these official documents. So, my point is, Britishers considered official documents as very important, as a key, as a document. Okay, so that is what official documents. We are moving to the next slide. Surveys. What do you mean by surveys? Actually, it's a part of official documents. Why? As part of surveys, it is a process of collecting information. We are better known as census surveys. What it means? Census surveys are those surveys we are collecting the information about the population. What is the total strength? What are the employment status, the age level, the economic group, and also the workforce, the number of work. Every detail we are getting through this population survey. So, it is one important surveys. Okay, and zoological surveys are there, conducting an estimation about the current floras and faunas. Then botanical surveys, geological surveys. Okay, so these are the revenue surveys. So these are the surveys which can give you information. So it is also a part of official document. So what do you mean by surveys? Surveys are the process or the method of collecting information about any stream. Okay, what is the importance of these surveys? That is what very important. And remember, my dear children, Britishers also considered these surveys were very important, but there is a limitation that also you need to note down. What was the limitation of surveys conducted by Britishers? No doubt they considered surveys and official documents were very significant, but there is a limitation. What is that? Yes, these surveys were not at all able to cater the needs of people. These surveys were not capable of serving the wishes and wants of the people, what the common people needs, what the society wants. These things Britishers never considered. They just considered surveys to collect information about some matters, and it can be used to administer, and it can be used for getting maximum profit and all. That means exploitation comes. So, what is the actual purpose of these surveys? These surveys we need to use for the welfare of the people, no? Yes, but Britishers never considered that welfare aspects. So, let me point out the important problem behind these surveys that is also considered as the significance of these surveys. What is that importance? Yes, surveys were not at all used, surveys were not at all helped what the actual thinking of the people. What were the wishes of the people? That is what very important. Okay, that is the most important feature of official surveys. Britishers considered official surveys as very significant. It has to play a crucial role for the welfare, but in that aspect, zero. That is what my point. So, in this chapter you need to focus mainly on history as a subject. We all know history is associated with dates. Without dates, history cannot be fulfilled as a full subject, clear. Then we studied about James Mill's classification. Two important classifications were there. One was done by James Mill and its problems. Then the second classification, ancient, modern, medieval, ancient, medieval and modern, okay, that is Western concept, and colonialism we discussed. Then we discussed official documents, the problems of official documents, what are the examples, and what do you mean by surveys, and what is the problem of these surveys. So, let me wind up, and I hope you understood. So, please keep reading textbook, okay, and please stay safe. Thank you.